I'd like to call the City of
Where's
Twinsburg
Sam? You can't
Caucus
start without
meeting
Sam.
for March 23rd, 2021.
God.
Oh, you're here now. To order at 7 p.m. The meeting is being held hybrid with council in person and public participation via Zoom due to the current COVID-19 statewide guidelines. Shannon, please call the roll.
Ms. McPherron?
Here.
Mr. Scafidi?
Here.
Mrs. Walker? Present. Mr. Bellin?
Here.
Mrs. Stalker?
Here.
Mr. Barr?
Here.
Mr. Fury?
I'm here.
Do we have any presentations this evening?
There are none.
At this time, are there any items for discussion? Do we have any audience participation?
There is none.
Moving on to pending legislation. Ordinance 14, 2021. This will be the third reading for the permanent appropriations budget for 2021. The emergency clause has been added so that it can be passed by the end of the month as required. The updated amount is $41,916,265.18, which is a difference of $135,000 over the original amount. Are there any questions? Ordinance 17, 2021. Tonight is the third reading on the food truck regulations.
Second reading.
It's the third.
It's the third.
It's the third. Stands on second.
It stands on
Stands on
second.
second.
We changed. We
Right.
had it out. We changed it. We read it, and this is the third.
Yeah, I would just indicate that this has the changes we discussed at the last council meeting, and this is in the final form as council discussed 2 weeks ago.
And that was removing the 10-day restriction.
Correct.
You guys want to put this on an emergency, so you don't have to wait 30 days, because the weather's nice.
Yeah, I would. I'd
So the way I would do that if I were you is I would make a motion to add this.
I have to write this down.
Uh,
Motion.
I would make a motion to add our standard emergency clause. And then once that's voted on, then you do your normal,
Pass it as emergency. Or as
Right.
amended. Right?
but you add the emergency clause, you make it an emergency,
Right.
then you pass it as an emergency. So it's three
Okay.
steps,
You gotta take 3 votes.
it's 3 votes.
Right.
Okay.
That's how I'd do it.
Okay. Well, would that be how Mr. Mixos would do it?
It would be.
Okay.
Tell
I might need a
That's-
little more time to work into that.
That's right.
Okay. So, is there any other discussion on that food trucks?
Mr. Maestros, I sent you this email, but I just wanted to confirm, this particular piece of legislation does not affect ice cream trucks. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. Thank you for bringing that up, Mr. Bellin. We discussed it earlier. When we first started down this path, we tried to merge the ice cream truck legislation, which we've had on the books for years, 20 plus years, with this one, and it became too cumbersome. So we created this one independently. So we didn't change that one at all. And in those ice cream trucks know the routine. They show up, they get the inspection from the police department. They go through that on an annual basis, and I don't expect anything to change.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Sure.
Okay. Now we're up to ordinance 21, 2021. This is amending section 127 of the codified ordinances regarding making the representatives on the capital improvement board non-ward specific. Does council have any questions on this?
Do you want to make that an emergency, or it's because are you appointing people within the next 30 days?
I think when we talked at the last meeting, since capital improvements doesn't meet till the end
Till the
of,
fall?
Yeah.
No
Right.
problem.
it would be okay
We
reading.
have plenty of time.
But do we have openings that we're going to appoint people to now?
They were advertised, and we have applicants that, basically the same board. would be
Everybody that's on
The
it.
only people that applied were the returners from capital improvement in the past.
Okay.
Okay. Resolution 22, 2021. This is to extend various CRA agreements. The Tax Incentive Review Committee met to discuss each agreement at their annual meeting. All companies listed were recommended to continue with the program because they have met their obligations. Are there any questions on Resolution 22, 2021?
It's the same for 23. We had the CRA top agreement meeting on St. Patrick's Day, represented by the school board, the city, the county, and everything went smooth. So there's 23 agreements, 24 agreements here between the two. They're all either in line or producing more than we expected.
Very good. Are there any questions on Resolution 23, 2021? Ordinance 24, 2021. This is to award the 2021 road striping program to American Roadway Logistics in the amount of $94,269.25. Is there any discussion on that?
I don't.
Nope. On to miscellaneous. Council, does anyone have any miscellaneous items to discuss?
Does Amy want to talk to us?
There you go.
I just want to catch you on miscellaneous associated with my motions. Do they have a copy of the motions? Okay. I just want to make sure everybody was clear on what we were doing. This is for the crosswalks on Liberty Road improvements. So what we are looking at placing there with this motion is buying the material to put in basically the signs that will flash, and we're putting lights in the road that basically would be triggered at the same time and flash, so there'll be yellow lights in the road. I did send you, while you were in the meeting, a link to the company that I'd be looking at hiring, so you can actually go look at in-road lighting, and you can look at those flashing beacons that we're having. I just want to make sure everybody answered all questions associated with that so we can move forward. It would be the material purchase, and then service would be doing the install.
Amy, are those lights, I'm assuming, are below surface, right? So they're not going to be damaged?
Yeah, they'll actually, very similar to what you put a loop detector in, they'll put a cut for the wiring associated with it. They'll put a cord hole, and those will be depressed. So yes, they will not be a plow issue. I'm sure they'll still mark them in the winter, so that, because you do have the roads, you know, they move a little bit, that to lift the plow a little bit there, but they're plow safe is basically what I have. Weren't my first for the Northeast Ohio, but it basically is going to provide, I think, the level of safety, or just putting the flashing lights on the side, people just go right through those, and very concerned about Liberty Road being not your typical residential road, that I think you need both of these entities to give you the level that I think you're looking for, so.
Amy, there's two motions.
Right, there are two motions. We broke them out as separate. I actually contacted 4 different entities to get quotes. Under 25, in theory, basically we can make the award. Each location is under 25. It's the same company we're buying, so we'll be under 50. Was able to contacted 4. One doesn't provide the in-road lighting, only the flashing beacons. One serves Pacific Northwest. And the 2 quotes I got, I gave you the quote that I'm comfortable with, and the lower of the 2 of the quotes. So.
Well, we appreciate all your work in this.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Amy.
Amy, are these only powered solarly, or are we?
You can go either direction. Our intent,
How
I
are
think,
we
is
going to do it? Because
I
we
think
probably
our
don't have a
intent-
meter out there right now.
we don't have a meter. I think our intent is to do it solar, based
it's
on where
about-
we are. If that
It's
seems
expensive to stick a meter out there, like, $10,000 maybe.
Yeah, our intention is to do it solar. I got a quote for both. The intention is to put the solar component on. Hopefully that's, again, we're looking at this being used more in the daytime. There should be plenty of charge associated with it. If there's any issues down the road, they'll be able to convert to true power line if we need to.
Thank you.
Thank you, Amy.
Thank you, Amy.
Any other miscellaneous items?
I do have one, Ms. McCarron. Before you tonight, I think you're going to have a request for council to make a motion regarding a liquor permit. We have and these requests come in, as you guys are aware, fairly regularly. But we had one that raised a few eyebrows when it came in, that being that it was for a class D1 permit for the Get-Go gas station. And when we looked at the D1 permit, it's for beer only on premises or consumption sealed containers for carry out until 1 a.m. And because it said, D1 allows for consumption on premises, we called, or actually forwarded it to police department and had them call to find out what the plan was for Get-Go. As you know, they sell food there. And the report we got back, and we talked to both the Get-Go gas station and also the State Liquor Control Investigation Agency, and what their expectations are is Get-Go's across the state, maybe across the country, are selling low alcohol content equal to that of a beer in a slushy form that they're selling from their units. So, that answers that of why they would want a D1 permit. So, a lot of times we look at these and say, well, what are the requirements to say no? And we're somewhat limited on objecting to the issuance of the permit, because technically they can do what they're proposing to do. I think we can all think of reasons why it's a bad idea and it might not work and it might lead to violations, but that's not a reason to object. They have to violate and the liquor control has to enforce, and if that happens, changes can be made down the road. Really, the reasons we can object at this stage is whether or not, that being that the applicant or anybody as part of the ownership has been convicted of a felony or crime, a bad enforcement record at that location, it's substantially adverse to interfering with public decency, sobriety, peace, good nature, welfare of the neighborhood, or that neighborhood is saturated with permits. They already have a permit. They have a C2 permit, I believe, a C1 permit, I'm sorry. A lot of these issues, we're somewhat handcuffed on what we can do as far as objecting or sustaining objection at this point. But just to let you know, that's the reasoning. A lot of times the question is, why are they asking for this? And this isn't your name change. This is actually a different permit. It's on the radar of a police department. It's on the radar of state liquor control. So when it happens, if council approves this, we're going to be keeping a close eye on it. But just wanted to kind of bring that to your attention.
So what happens if we don't approve it? Can we not approve it?
You can decide not to approve it. A hearing gets set down in Columbus. We have to appear. I would appear on behalf of the city. We would have to appear and assert our objection. But like I said, it's on those 4 criteria that I just laid out.
So we basically don't have anything to stand up.
That's why usually we look at these and we run them through the police department to the number of violations we might have had at a location, and we really only asserted objections based upon police data that shows we have a problem with it.
So for us to not approve it, it's just kind of we're spinning our wheels.
I would agree with that.
Do you really have to go to Columbus?
You're supposed to go to Columbus when you file an objection.
Is this the Get-Go on 82? Where is this? Get-Go?
Yes.
82?
They get, what's that?
Next to Sheets?
By Haddon Road.
Haddon Road and 82.
Haddon
Oh,
Road.
yeah.
There's a car wash up there. It's right by
I know
the new
where it is.
sushi place.
Yeah.
It's gonna be Circle K. It's gonna
No,
be
the
across
existing, the Get-Go that's up there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. It's not a new,
Yeah, it's been there.
it's
Yeah.
been there,
So
right?
you can get a slushy with alcohol. Yeah.
There's
No.
down at
BP is
where the
gonna be
BP
Circle
is.
Get-Go,
Yeah, I
staying
know.
Get-Go.
Well,
Yeah.
but you guys said it's next to
Haddon
Same
Road,
I said it's next
that's a
to,
Get-Go.
correct.
I got
This
it.
one's right across
For some
from,
reason, people remember it's
yeah.
a Get-Go. No, this is-
McDonald's.
No.
No, this is a
Sheets.
Get-
No, this,
Across from Sheets.
By Bob Evans.
That's
right, that's a Circle K.
It's
But
got to be a
that's-
circle.
No,
Right.
this Get-Go already has permit, they just are changing it to be able to.
This is the place
Get-Go.
up,
Haddon Road
this is up
82.
by
That's
Wendy's.
correct. That's Haddon Road, 82,
Bob
Get-Go.
Evans.
All right.
Oh,
Yes.
Why do we even say Circle K?
I don't know.
We didn't.
I didn't say Circle K.
You did.
I did.
thought it was Circle K.
I know where both of them are gonna be.
I've been there already tonight.
Oh, Sam.
Slushies?
A couple slushies, apparently.
Must have had a slushie.
So that'll be the motion that Mrs. McFerrin will make during the council meeting in case there's any questions.
Thank you.
Okay. I think we're ready to adjourn, correct?
Yes.
Okay, the caucus meeting is now adjourned at 7:15.